Hi everyone. I'm just gonna wait a couple minutes before we get started with change. All right. Hold on. I'm trying to get this to pin. Yes. Okay. Hi, everybody. It's nice to see you all. So, I'm going to get started because we only have 30 minutes and I'd like to say a few things. I have my notes in front of me. So my name is Dr. Salha Afridi. I am a clinical psychologist and the managing director of the Lighthouse, Arabia. And I'm very happy to be with you guys today, speaking about a very important topic, which I just find so frequent in the UAE, especially during May and June. I've lived in UAE for 11 years, and every May and June, the winds of change come blowing and people decide they're gonna leave Dubai at this time. They realize they're gonna move at this time. They might actually change schools, so kids might be saying goodbye to their friends. Friends are leaving at this time. Parents decide to get a divorce at this time because a lot of our sort of decisions are, around our children's school year, and it's around our rent and all of these other things. Companies also decide to let people go at this time. So it might be the end of their fiscal year, or they just make sure that the people that they are letting go of are actually being able to leave so they can get their kids into the next school. So for the next school year. So there's just a lot of change that happens in the UAE around June, and I've just seen that every single year. But this year, it was not just June, right? We've been in a change cycle with our children since March, probably even a little bit earlier than that. We've had a loss of normalcy, a loss of agency, a loss of personal freedom, loss of some of these really beloved businesses that we had. Maybe their favorite restaurant closed down, a loss of memories that we thought we were going to make, a loss of being able to travel this summer, a loss of being able to see our families this summer. So children have actually experienced a lot of loss and a lot of change in the last 4 or 5 months. We also have a lot of children who are grieving rituals that they actually were really looking forward to. We've had kids who've graduated, whether it was from kindergarten or whether it was from 5th grade or middle school or high school, and they no longer are able to celebrate that. They were really looking forward to that. So there's just been a lot of different changes that the kids have gone through, and a lot of different losses that the kids have gone through. And so I just want to say that as a family, as children, we've gone through a lot, and I want to give you a little bit of a structure as to what you can do with your children, and what to expect from your children, and what are normal feelings and what are not normal feelings, okay? So I'm going to be using the William Bridges model, and his model actually breaks up change and transition into 2 separate things. So change happens in a moment. In a moment, we're told we have to go indoors and we're homeschooling and we are working from home and we're not going back out and all of these things. That's what happened to us in March. It happened in a moment and we were all indoors. Then something starts to shift inside of us and we're panicked and we're worried and we're stressed and all of these other things. And so that actually is when we're first presented with change, is stage 1. The stage 1 is letting go of the reality of what things used to be. But change happens in a moment, then begins this internal shifting, which is called a transition. And transitions are actually psychological. You can become a mother right? You can give birth to a child, but to become a mother, you sort of have to get your head around that, and it might take you 6-7 weeks before you realize that, oh wait, this is happening. You can become a father, but you can still take a little bit longer for you to know, what does that mean? What does it mean to be a father? You can get divorced, and you can sign that paper and say, I'm divorced, but then to live as a divorced person, what does that actually mean? And for children who've experienced a death in the family, all of these losses can actually happen in a moment, but then what does that mean to the child? That's called a transition. And transitions happen in stages. You don't just wake up one day and all of a sudden you're, oh, okay, everything is fine. It's actually a gradual process of accepting, wondering what your real sort of new identity is, wondering how you're going to live with this new way of being. And I want you to imagine that you're remodeling your house, which sounds like a little bit traumatic, but imagining that you are remodeling your house. And when you remodel your house, you break down a wall, right? You break down one wall, and then there's bricks and mortar and all of these other things laying on the ground, and then you clean that up and there's no wall. The second wall doesn't just come back up. There has to be a design, there has to be a thought, then they come and they build it brick by brick, and then there's a second wall. That's the same thing that happens inside of you and inside of your child. When there's a reality that is broken, first there's just rubble all around, and then we clean up the rubble, and then we design a new way of doing things, and then we build a new wall up. And psychologically, that is what's happening inside of children. So when you break down that wall of reality, whatever that might be, the parents are getting divorced, there was a death in the family, or they're scared of going back out, because they were just so safe when we were all inside. And why does dad have to go out? I don't want him to go out. You told me COVID was dangerous, and now you're telling me he has to go back to work. Like, this is scary for kids. So anytime there is a change that a child is presented with, you can expect that the wall just came tumbling down inside of them, and that your job at that time is to just contain that child. And so there's things that you can do for your child during this time, but some of the things that you can imagine are going to be very, very normal reactions: fear, anger, frustration, rebellion, disorientation, guilt. Like, maybe I had something to do with this. Maybe if I didn't eat dinner, then my dad wouldn't have to pay for it, and then he wouldn't have to go to work. Like, kids actually think like this. They actually think that, oh, well, maybe if I didn't spend money, then my dad wouldn't have to go to work, and then he wouldn't be outside with COVID. And so this is the reality for children. And so sometimes it's quite magical thinking. And so a lot of guilt can come up: fear, anger, disgust, rebellion, demoralization. And these are very normal feelings when you knock down their reality of what they felt safe with. What you want to do at that point is just to give them clear instruction as to what they can expect. Now, if that is that they're moving a school, I'm just going to try to stick to one example. I'm going to just use divorce as an example, okay? Because I keep moving around from examples. But let's just say that the family is getting a divorce. Or actually, maybe not. Let's just say that the child is not wanting to go back out. They don't want to go back out. They're comfortable staying indoors. They don't want to go, and they don't want to, they don't want to be outside. When you're telling them that the restrictions have been loosened and we're allowed to go back out and we're gonna go to the beach as a family, and the child is resisting that, you just want to give them very clear instruction as to what to expect. And that might be that, hey, we're gonna wear a mask, we're gonna wear gloves, I'm gonna be with you, you don't have to get out of the car if you don't want, we're all gonna go to the beach, you can stay in the car and be comfortable, and then we're gonna walk, and then whenever you're comfortable, you can come back out. In the case of a divorce, you can say, listen, your mom and dad love you, mom and dad are gonna be living in 2 different houses, and we're actually going to, you're gonna stay sometime with your dad, you're gonna stay sometime with them, whatever that reality might be, just explain it in detail to what that means. Now, children are very, very sort of magical thinking, okay? Because they could actually say, well, I'm not, what do you mean I have to go there? Can I take my stuff with me? Or, you know, are you never gonna see me again after that? So you have to be very, very explicit. You will go there, you will stay there till 7 p.m. At 7 p.m., the driver's gonna come get you, and then you're gonna come back, and then you're gonna spend the night here, and then you're gonna see him. So you have to literally play by play, especially the younger they are. The older they are, they kind of get the hang of things, but the younger they are, the more in detail you're gonna have to be. So that's what they need from you, step one, in stage one. Stage two is where they're sort of in limbo land, okay? Limbo land is where they're no longer, the wall is no longer shattering, it's already shattered, but they just still feel very, very heavy. They feel heavy, they don't feel good, they don't feel like they're here, they don't feel like they're there, they're not in the old world, they're not in the new reality just yet, and so it just feels very heavy for people. And it's almost very anxiety provoking because they're sort of in limbo land, okay? So that limbo land is somewhere where you just keep checking in with your kids. You pay attention to them, you check in on them, you ask them, you wonder about them. You don't just say, okay, well, the change has happened, he's no longer crying, everything is okay. No, you don't want to do that just yet. It usually takes 6 weeks for your child and for yourself to be able to sort of gather your thoughts and, you know, gather this sort of new reality. So you don't want to let up before they've settled into a new way of being. So once you've sort of checked in with them, constantly be checking in with them, keep saying the same things to them. You're going to go do this, then we're going to go do that, and explain in detail whatever in their life is actually changing. So for example, this summer, me and my kids are not traveling. So I have 4 children. We're not traveling. This is a big change for kids. You know, they haven't been in the UAE for the whole summer in a few years. We've lived many summers here. It's fine. I don't mind it when it's hot outside. I kind of like it. But it's been a few years, so sort of in their conscious mind, they don't remember that, wait, we're supposed to go see our grandmother every summer. What do you mean we're not seeing our grandmother every summer? So explaining to them. And I've explained it again and again and again. And then they're like, well, the airport's opened, and oh, well, we can do this, and oh, well, we can do that. So explaining to them that, listen, I don't know of the hospitals there. I'm not sure about COVID. Your grandmother has underlying condition, and that's why we can't go. So explaining is going to be exhausting for you, but that's going to be very important as you help people get children through change. And then last, they're going to come into this change state where they're just going to kind of get used to it. And they're like, okay, well, this is how it's going to be. And you're going to see a little bit of a shift. You know, they might start saying, well, Mom, can we buy a pool? You know, one of these above ground pools for the summer? Or can we get water guns for the summer? Or what else are we going to do? Can we do a staycation for the summer? So they're no longer shattered by this idea that they're not traveling. They're no longer feeling demoralized that they're not going to travel this summer. And they also are ready to do something new. So that's kind of how a transition takes place, okay? It's usually in these 3 steps, and it usually takes 6 to 8 weeks before your reality sets in and you say, this is how I'm supposed to be. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. Now, there's 5 things I want you to keep in mind as you take your children on this journey of transitions and change and loss. The first thing is going to be, make sure you're validating their loss. What happens usually? The child comes and I say, hey, listen, we're not going to be traveling to see your grandmother this summer, okay? Oh, I can't believe it. I hate this. I want to travel this summer, and I don't like this, and I don't like COVID, and I don't like you. Okay, a child could do that. And then as a parent, you're thinking, really? You're actually going to act like that? You are being so ungrateful right now. There are people in this world who don't have a house, and they don't have a car, and they don't have food, and we all go into this lecture mode as parents. Don't do that. That is not validating their experience in any way. The motto you want to remember is connect and then redirect. Connect with your child's feelings. By the way, this works with adults too. So if your husband or your wife is doing the same thing, don't go into lecture mode. Don't go into problem solving mode. Just connect and say, that is really upsetting, isn't it? I'm upset about it too. I was really looking forward to traveling this summer too. That's it. I really feel you. I totally get it. You know, you worked so hard and you've been so good and you were really looking forward to it and you're really upset about that. I'm connecting, I'm validating, I'm being a mirror, and it's okay to cry. I cried last night. It's okay. You can cry. It's gonna be fine. And then the child feels like, okay, I'm not bad for feeling what I'm feeling. So don't fix the child's feeling before you have actually connected with the child's feeling. Don't dismiss the child's feeling until you have actually connected with the child's feeling. It is very important for the child to feel like they actually were heard. And this works like magic, by the way. If your child is throwing a tantrum and they're screaming and they're shouting and you say, oh my God, you're so angry right now. I can see that you're so angry right now. They actually are like, how did you know? I don't have to scream. And it actually works. So connecting to redirect is going to work like magic, okay? So that's the first thing you're gonna wanna do. You wanna make sure that you're hearing them and you're feeling them and you're sitting in that. But most often what happens is, as parents, we feel so uncomfortable about our children suffering that we quickly say, you know what, it's okay, it's gonna be fine, we're gonna do this and we're gonna do this and we're gonna do this and we're gonna do this. And the child is saying, but I was just talking about grandmother and I was feeling really sad about that. And so don't do that. Don't tell your child, we're gonna fix everything. And if he's crying, but look, you know, look at all the books you have and look at all the toys you have and I'll take you to Dubai Mall and you can buy things there. Don't do that. Connect and then redirect. And if you try to solve their problems too quickly, then they grow up learning they don't know how to deal with problems. If you jump in and you fix that problem too quickly, then they haven't learned the lesson that this change came to show them. If you let them sit with that sadness and you sit with that sadness and you see them suffering and you're suffering, then the muscle for resilience becomes developed, okay? So that's number one. I hope I have enough time to go through all of them. I'll quickly go it. Number two, they need to feel empowered. Give them some options. Okay, fine, we're not going away this summer, but what else can we do? Maybe we can go to Fujairah. Maybe we can go to Dubai. Maybe we can go, and buy a pool. Maybe we can do a family project in the house. Can we do something together that's going to make them feel like they have some options? So that's going to be very important also, that you give them some choices and you empower them. And that means you have to be very, very clear about this. If your child comes and says, Mom, well, what if we go and travel in August? And you say, yeah, maybe we'll think about it. If you know in your heart that you're not traveling in August, don't say that. Don't lie. These little lies become big trust or big little trust, okay? So if you know for sure you are not traveling in August, then you should say it just like that. We will not be traveling this summer. We are not ready to travel this summer as a family. This is really, I know this is not something you want to hear. I know it's really upsetting you. And then they can scream and they can shout and they can do whatever. And you say, I know you're really upset about this. And I know that you're really angry about this. I understand. But that's it. Be super, super honest. I've told my kids I will never lie to them. And if they come and they try to do this every now and then, and they come and say, Mom, can we go to the mall today? It's like, and I'm in the middle of my work and I'm in the middle of my hustle, and they say, Mom, can we go do this today? And if I say yes, then they're like, she said yes. So I will never say yes unless I know it's going to happen for a fact. And so it's really, really important that you realize that their trust in your word develops in these small moments. Being honest with your children is going to be absolutely fundamental if you want them. And then, by the way, for a little kid going to the beach because you told them it was going to be 5 p.m., you're going to take them to the beach, that's their whole world. So it's just the beach for you, but it's everything for them. So these small moments are moments where you build trust. Okay? Number 3, make sure that they stay connected to their family. We have been blessed like no other generation before us, where we are connected to our families. We can make Zoom dates, and we can hang out on Zoom. So make sure that they stay connected to their friends and their family. If they're missing their friends and their family, find ways where they can stay connected. So when children are going through change, you want to call up every single person that you can that swoops in and becomes like a little buffer for the child, and they feel safe. They know that if mom is losing it over there, then at least there's aunt, and then there's the other aunt, and then there's the uncle, and then there's the coach. And so you want to call in every person that means anything to that child and say, listen, we're going to have to move out of this country. I really need you to support my child right now. Call on the board of advisors. It's going to be a very, very sort of important thing for your child to feel safe, is that support. Number 4 is going to, did I do number 4? Yeah, number 4, create opportunities for them to express. Now, you can do that through just giving them pens and markers and colors. Like when my children are younger, I have 4 children. So I have a 14-year-old, 12-year-old, 11-year-old, and a 5-year-old. Anytime they were upset about anything, we would sit down and we would start drawing. And the drawings didn't look like Picasso's, right? Oh, actually, they kind of did look like Picasso, but they weren't like, beautiful drawings, but they were just finding a way to express what they were going through. I remember when we left our old apartment and we moved into this house, it was really quite traumatic for them. And so they were drawing that apartment, they were drawing the fountain outside the apartment, they were drawing the spinnies outside the apartment, but that's what they were doing. And so giving them a little bit of a space where they're drawing things. If one of your children sings, maybe they can write a song, maybe they play the piano, they can play the piano. If they play basketball or sports, exercise is a great way for them to actually express some of that anxiety and anger. So even if they're like, I'm never playing basketball again, never mind. I hate this house and I hate this summer and I hate not going to see my grandmother and aunt. Then you just buy the basketball hoop and say, it's okay, you don't have to play with it. In case you change your mind, here's a ball, there's the hoop. And then just see what happens. Then eventually you might say, all right, well, I'm gonna go play. And then I go outside and I might throw some hoops. And eventually the kids might start to come out too. And that's what you wanna do. You wanna actually engage your children in a way where you create an opportunity for them to actually be able to express some of that. Physical activity, art, hobbies, singing, dancing, drawing, any of these things, writing letters, making a movie, of their, horrible summer or whatever they want to call it. Give them a camera and say, here, go document what you're gonna do this summer. Just find a way where they're expressing something and don't judge it, because for me, it's really like horrible. Like you have to stay in your home in the summer. Like this is not torture, but I'm connecting with my child's reality. They miss their grandmother. And so that's where I'm at. And so don't judge them. Just try to help them express what they might be going through. And then lastly, and the most important thing is for you, the parent, to actually take care of themselves. Because remember way back when we used to travel on airplanes, we used to put the oxygen mask on ourselves. That's what it says. In case of an emergency or there's a drop in oxygen, there's going to be a mask that drops in front of you. Make sure you put the mask on yourself and then you put it on your children and the elderly. Why should I put it on myself first? I'm gonna put it on my child because that's what mothers do. They take care of their children. Don't do that. Because if you put it on your child and then you pass out, your child has no chance of survival. And that's why you must put the oxygen mask on yourself first. You must put it on yourself first, and that means you need to take care of yourself. And whatever that means for you. For me, it means I have a really tight morning routine. I exercise every single day. I make sure that I take care of the way I look and I dress and I eat, and I have my teas with me all the time, and I have my aromatherapy with me all the time. It's very important that I take care of myself. So when I'm done with this video and I go down and see my kids, they see a mother who is engaged and not someone who is like depleted and exhausted and, can't actually engage in a conversation with them. Parents, you are doing an act of service when you take care of yourself first. It's service, not selfish. So it's very, very important that you do that. And usually, mothers, you are the last people that you sort of put on the list of people to take care of. Everybody goes on that list before you do. So it's very, very important that you take care of yourself. And as someone said, that you cannot pour out of an empty cup. 100%. And if your cup is empty, guess what? This house ain't gonna operate. And so it's very, very important that you keep these things in mind. So I would just want to review for people who joined late that change and transitions are different. Change happens in a moment. Transitions is an internal psychological process which can take up 6 to 8 weeks every time a adjustment is introduced. If it is a traumatic adjustment, if it's a divorce or a death in the family, it's not going to happen in 6 weeks. But I'm just saying, for your psyche to sort of adjust to that new reality, this is why we do a maternity leave of 40 days. And that's why, there's all sorts of 40 days, because your psyche starts to adjust. You're still depressed, you're still sad, but at least you're not in the shock that what just happened to my life. So change and transitions, and then you go through stages, letting go, the neutral stage, and then the new beginning stage. And then the 5 things that your children need. 1, they need for you to listen to them without dismissing them, without problem solving them. Number 2, they need to feel empowered. They need to say, no, I don't want to do this tonight, or I want a pool instead of a basketball hoop. Like, we need to give them some choices because they feel powerless. Powerless actually creates trauma inside of children. Number 3, they need to have support of their family members. Call in all the troops, the nannies and the grandmothers and the aunts and the Zooms and the friends. All of that is going to be important. Number 4, they need to be able to have a channel to express what they're going through. And that expression can be a drawing, a singing, an exercise, a coloring book, anything where they're actually releasing some of that energy. I just found that with my children, art worked really well and physical exercise worked really well too. And then lastly, but most importantly, for your parent, for you guys to actually take care of yourself and make sure that you are healthy, make sure that you are well, make sure that you remain positive, because children will do as you do, not as you say. So if you're like, come on, let's be grateful, let's be positive, but then you end up, talking about, oh my God, it's so hot here and I can't believe this and I don't want this. If you keep doing that, then yeah, they're gonna be negative too. So if you see something in your children, first check, when do I do that? Because children will do as we do, not as we say. And I would like to say that, yeah, we're all staying here this summer and there's lots of changes in the air and whatever, but really limit the technology use that they might have. Find a way where you are engaging them in different ways, because overuse of entertainment technology is actually really detrimental to their mood, to their sense of self, to their well-being. You can actually, have them do multiplications on their iPad, but these games where they sort of go on and on and on and on is really, really, really unhealthy for them. It's not going to make them resilient. It's not going to make them happy. It's not going to keep them engaged. You might have to spend some time with them, have a game night, have a movie night, cook dinner together one night, like have something that you're doing with them that keeps them engaged. Makes your job a little bit harder, but you know what? It's going to be better that your job is a little bit harder than they have some sort of mental health crisis, because high tech use is going to be something that is going to result in them feeling quite vulnerable, especially social media. So please be conscious of that as you go through all of these changes, and as you try to make them feel good, don't just give them things that might not be good for them. It's 6 o'clock, so I'm going to be logging off now. Thank you so much for being with me. And if you guys have any questions, you guys see my handle down there, Dr. Salha Afridi. You guys can message me. I also contribute to another parenting which I will write here, parenting platform, which is called Smart Heart board game, which is the board game that we sell at the Lighthouse. It's created by one of our psychologists. It's an international board game. So that's something I'm gonna write right there. So Smart Heart board game, not Smart Heart board games. So it would be, that's all of our parenting advice that we usually give. So I would encourage you guys to check that out, okay? Thank you guys, have a good evening, take care.